We need to address the elephant in the room. I got a new child. A new demon creature who is named Dennis. I think he just looks like a Dennis. Like, Dennis Core. I swear, Dennis is the last one I'm gonna buy. I promise. Maybe. I need to nip my doll buying obsession in the bud. He's the last one, okay. Dennis is the last. And before we dive head first, or nose first, maybe that's how I got this, into this movie, I'm just gonna let you know that it's a brutal one. It's pretty damn brutal. It's like a Grimm brothers retelling of Cinderella, but on crack. And with quite a bit more mutilation. Ooh, so exciting. So without further ado, let us begin. Just like the OG well-known Cinderella story, this movie begins with a mother of 2 daughters marrying a man for his supposed wealth, and moving into his mega mansion, mega castle home. Said supposed wealthy man having a daughter of his own. And in this movie, which is Norwegian by the way, which will explain a lot, his daughter's actually named Agnes instead of Cinderella, so that's not very typical, but not much about this movie is, as you will see. And unlike some of the other Cinderella retellings, the stepsisters, named Elvira and Alma, and Agnes seem to get along fairly well off the bat, or at least pleasant to each other. Just one big, happy, combined family. Until Daddy-O keels over dead. Good and dead. And given how close Agnes was to her father, his death hits her hard, but claps back even harder on the added members of the family, when it's revealed he actually has no money. Nada, not a cent to his damn name. And he only married this new woman, the stepmother, because he thought she had money. But nope, just 2 brokies trying to marry into wealth. Womp womp. Thereafter, their land and cattle are subsequently confiscated by the powers that be, and they're left destitute and penniless. Oh good heavens! And now they're too poor to even afford a funeral for the dad. Or so the stepmother says. So they kind of just chuck him into a side room for the time being. We'll deal with that later. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it, or when it starts decomposing and smelling. But soon after, as they're all sulking in their sobering, ill-fated, penniless dejection, a messenger arrives from the palace, declaring that the king and his son, His Royal Highness Prince Julian, are to be hosting a royal ball at the castle in 4 months' time to find King Julian his bride. Wow. And the second Elvira hears this, she is immediately thrilled, over the moon, because she has been absolutely enamored by Prince Julian for some time now, and wholeheartedly adores his beautiful poetry book, and lives on every word inside it. He's the man of her dreams, and a potential way out of their current financial destitution. And upon getting her own personalized royal invitation to the ball, Elvira is on cloud 9. She's gonna be the one to marry Prince Julian. But, in order to be absolutely perfect for the prince, she's deemed by her mother to be needing a few alterations first. In her mother's eyes, a 180-degree makeover. Because at the idea of Elvira marrying the prince, the mother can only see dollar signs, like pouring coins in her vision. And she will do anything to become part of the royal line and to get into the royal pockets. So thus begin the alterations. On poor Elvira. The first comes as the removal of her braces. Removed in the most primitive, barbaric way possible, with pliers. Ugh. And after she's no longer a brace face, her doctor from Timu moves on to the piece de resistance. Her nose. Her sniffer. Relatable. Ow. So, he simply tips her back in the very same chair she just had her braces removed in, and pulls out a, most likely not medical grade, hammer and chisel. And then he gets to work. Right then and there, on the spot. No pain relief or anything. Elvira getting absolutely tortured in front of her callous, uncaring, determined mother, and hella concerned sister Alma. Anything for that cute little button nose. And Elvira is determined to look perfect for the prince. After the conclusion of her medical torture, Elvira, nose brace and all, is quickly enrolled in a finishing school with a subsequent dance class, so that when she eventually and hopefully dances with the prince at the ball, he'll be swept up off his feet by her. And by the way, apparently a finishing school is where young women are taught grace and etiquette to prepare them for life in the high society, or something pompous and puffed up like that. And not only that, this particular high-class dance troupe will be performing a dance number as the opener for the ball. And as soon as Elvira hears that, she's frothing at the mouth for the lead position. The lead front and center position of the dance. Because what better way to be noticed by the prince? But unfortunately, the very strict, cold dance teacher views Elvira's dancing skills as less than subpar, and places Elvira at the very back of the dance group, and Agnes in her place at the front. But poor Elvira gives her all regardless. Also, they can't afford a funeral for Agnes's father still, and yet they're both signed up into this probably very pricey, highbrow finishing school and dance class. Okay. The next alteration to Elvira's appearance, and the next stepping stone in her complete makeover, is a very strict diet. So that she'll look snatched for the prince. At dinner, she only gets a bowl of lemon water, while everyone else around her gets a hearty, well-balanced meal. Cruel as hell. Cruel AF. Because Elvira is already at a perfectly healthy weight. She looks good. I'm making more of an expression, you just can't see it, okay? At the same dinner, we learn that Agnes's father has still not been buried, and has just been left out to rot all this time in an adjoining side room off in the house. Ew. Because according to the stepmother, they won't be able to afford a funeral, not until after the ball, after Elvira woos the prince and marries him and becomes part of the royal family. Don't you get it, Agnes? Stop being selfish. Treating the marriage like it's a guarantee or something. Putting a lot on that. It's a big investment for the stepmother. And as angry as that makes Agnes, at this point, just dig a hole in the backyard or something. It's better than watching him rot in one of the rooms in your house, right? Just me? Honestly, Agnes should just be grateful they haven't made her their indentured servant yet, since the dad's been dead for a little bit, you know? Count your blessings, Agnes. Anywho, after continuing numerous lessons in ladylike etiquette and grace, and oodles of more dance training, unfortunately, it is still not enough. And Elvira doesn't get appointed the highly sought-after lead position in the dance. Shoot. In fact, she barely makes the list at all. Her mother even had to bribe the dance teacher into scratching Elvira's name into the very bottom of the list. And to add insult to injury, guess who was appointed the lead dancer? Agnes! Stepsister Agnes. But honestly, Elvira's just stoked that she made it at all. Because at this point, she'll still be dancing for the prince. Ooh! Anything and everything for him. Including torturing herself and mutilating everything. But it will all be worth it. Although, Agnes is quickly becoming the dance teacher's star pupil, while Elvira continues to be mocked and pushed to the sidelines, pushed to the back. And after all Elvira's sacrifice thus far, she feels like she'll never be good enough to compete with Agnes. Elvira convinced that she's just ugly and fat and she'll never be pretty. Probably because of all the things her mom has been feeding into her brain. Mother of the Year award. One day, when Elvira expresses her downcast, self-conscious sentiment to one of her finishing school teachers, said teacher gives her a little gift to help her out with her weight problem. Which turns out to be a tapeworm egg. A tapeworm egg! Oh, I can't even look at that. Ew. And to Elvira, it's the greatest idea in existence. Oh, she can eat all she wants and still lose weight. Hello. A perfect godsend. And of course, Alma is concerned off the bat, but Elvira assures her sister that, oh no, it's fine, it's perfectly okay. I've got an antidote as well, so that when I finish losing all the weight I want, I can just take it, and the tapeworm will simply and painlessly be ejected from my body. It's fine, foolproof. But of course, that does not assuage Alma's concern. But Elvira is insistent. She knows what she's doing. After a very unhappy and probably very worried, Alma storms off, taking both of the horses with her. Elvira gets to swallowing the tapeworm egg. Down the gullet. Before shortly thereafter, coming across the prince and a couple of his buddies out in the woods hunting birds. Oh my gosh, what are the chances? Careful not to be noticed by them, Elvira quietly sneaks over towards them, close enough to overhear what they're saying. It turns out that Elvira's sweet, dreamy, poetic prince is actually instead vulgar and crude and seems to be nothing but a womanizer and a misogynist as well, as the little cherry on top. And when Elvira is accidentally discovered by them, the prince is cruel and rude and dismissive of her, and ugh, she's hideous. But somehow, even after that, Elvira is still enamored and swooning over him. Oh, he's just as good looking in person. Oh, that's her future hubby right there. She knows it. She can feel it in her bones. And when Elvira returns home at nightfall, she accidentally discovers Agnes rolling around in the hay, if you will, with the stable boy. And I think because Elvira has a built-up resentment towards Agnes, for Agnes constantly overshadowing her, Elvira immediately snitches to her mother about what she just saw. And Agnes's stepmommy ain't all too happy about it, yelling at her and telling her what a whore she is, before putting her to work alongside the servants, because now she's just at their level. And Elvira looks appeased. And then the movie jumps to 3 months later, a month out from the royal ball. Woo. And by this point, Elvira can finally have her nose brace removed. Let's see if I can get it off. Oh, I can breathe. Trash. Anyway, Elvira finally gets her nose brace off as well, revealing her new perfect little nose underneath. Don't look at mine. And her mother is very pleased with the result. Elvira as well. Not to mention that by this point, Elvira is also noticeably slimmer. That tapeworm is getting to work. And that's scary. Additionally, Agnes seems to be a full-fledged servant now, and has been removed from the finishing school and dance class, and is most likely out of the running for the prince's hand in marriage, due to her egregious fornication. Ugh. But Agnes being cut from the competition works well in Elvira's favor. Her biggest competition is out. And now that Elvira's got that perfect little button nose, braceless teeth, and the figure of her dreams, she wants to take her quest for beauty a step further by getting lash extensions. But these ain't the glue-on type, if you catch my drift. Instead, these lashes need to be sewn into your waterline, into your eyelid. Oh, top and bottom, both sides, for the sake of more permanence and more realism. Ugh, ew. I've actually never tried glue-on eyelash extensions or whatever, because I'm scared of them ripping out my own eyelashes. But this is about 10,000 light years scarier than glue-on eyelashes. Ugh. So, after getting strapped down in the torture chair with Dr. Timu again, who is apparently a jack of all trades, master of none, Elvira gets a little bit of pain-relieving balm rubbed onto her eyelids, and then the barbaric sewing begins. Woo! And it's every bit as brutal as you think it would be, so I'll spare you guys from having to see that. Yeah, you're welcome. So, Elvira spends that night in bed with bloody bandages over her eyes and a ghastly grumbly rumbling in her guts, because lest we forget that pesky little tapeworm. And to make it even worse, because Elvira has the bandages over her eyes, she can't even find her way to the bathroom in the middle of the night to pee. All in the futile chase for perfection. But Agnes comes across her stumbling in the hallway and shows her some pity, some mercy, even though I don't know if Elvira fully deserves it from her at this point. But Agnes gives it anyway, and helps assuage her tapeworm-fueled midnight munchies with a little bit of cake. And even though Elvira is suffering, and suffering a lot, it feels worth it to her. Somehow. Especially as she continues progressing toward her greatest goal, the prince. The ball is right around the corner now. She even manages to get placed as the lead in the dance, now that, Agnes is taken care of and out of there. So finally, Elvira is becoming all she wanted to be, and achieving all she wanted to achieve, even though she's really broken herself up in the process and is now kind of falling apart. I mean, even her hair starts falling out as well. Still worth it though, right? And I'm assuming the hair loss is from all the nutrient deficiencies she's getting from having the tapeworm steal all her food and therefore the nutrients. So, not exactly goals. But it is still all so worth it to her. She's almost there. Everything is falling into place. Especially when it gets to the night before the big ball, the long-awaited ball. and Elvira is able to try on her beautiful gown for the long-awaited event. And it fits like a glove, although the dress is low-key hideous. Even as much as Elvira likes how she looks in the dress now, her balding head and sparse patches of hair detract from the overall beauty that she's been fighting so hard to achieve. That tapeworm is really doing a number on her. But not to worry, a wig will hide everything. Bald patches who? Receding hairline where? And that night, the night before the highly sought after, so long awaited ball, as Elvira is downstairs trying to satiate her insatiable hunger pains, Agnes is upstairs in her peasant room, secretly sorting out what she can wear to the ball, because she wants to go too. Even though she's not allowed to attend, because she's now being deemed a whore, and a filthy peasant servant. Yuck. Although Agnes is so naturally pretty. With beautiful hair too, might I add. Beautiful hair. Can I have one of Elvira's wigs too, while we're at it? Anywho, Elvira catches Agnes in the act of preparing for the ball the next day, and is immediately enraged and threatened by Agnes becoming part of the competition again, the competition for her hubby, the prince. So Elvira rips and tears Agnes's dress apart, only stopping once her mother kind of casually, nonchalantly intervenes and escorts Elvira back to bed. There, sweetheart, don't worry about the peasant girl. There's no way she'll be attending. Agnes has been pretty nice and even caring towards Elvira, and this is her payment. Poor Agnes rushes away with her dress in tatters, heading into the room where her still unburied, wholeheartedly, fully rotting father is just laying out. Ew. I mean, it's been like, what, 4 months by this point? Just dig a hole outside, Agnes. Beggars cannot be choosers. Ew. The smell, man. Ugh. Anywho, as Agnes is in said room, weeping and mourning the horrible state of her life, the spirit of Agnes's mother appears to her to comfort her, as the same worms that are crawling through her father's body come out and start patching up the tatters of Agnes's dress with their silk, as if you'd find silkworms anywhere around a decaying body. Wrong worm here, wrong worm. Anyway, the spirit of Agnes's mother goes on to tell her that her fancy ball shoes are now in her pocket, and that by the mother's powers that she somehow has for some reason, no one will be able to recognize Agnes at the ball. But at midnight, all the magic will wear off and, her coach will return to being a pumpkin, as the story goes, as we all know. But hey, it's almost morning. Those silkworms need to get grinding. When the next day rolls around, the day of the long-awaited ball, Elvira gets all primped and ready to sweep the prince off his narcissistic feet. Oh. All these last 4 months of horrific suffering and body modification and self-mutilation have culminated into this very moment. The moment has finally arrived. Now all the torture, pain, and misery will all have been worth it. And then some, tenfold. And Elvira is thrilled to finally arrive at the palace itself. Though by this point, she has a little more than just butterflies in her stomach. In fact, a completely different sort of insect. And this one's evil. And of course, Elvira's mother is absolutely stoked that they made it this far, that they made it to this point, finally. Still absolutely certain that Elvira will be the one that the prince chooses to be his bride. Oh, she has to be. After Elvira is royally officially introduced and does this awkward dog impression type act the whole time, barks and little yips included. What? Who told her that was a good idea? She gets to lay her eyes on the prince once again. She finally gets to see him face to face, in all her alterated glory, the final product of herself. Except the prince doesn't look all too impressed. Of course he doesn't. But now it's time for their opening dance number, in which Elvira is the star. Now she'll really get the prince to notice her. This is her chance, her moment. The overall dance is kind of lackluster, slow, and pretty boring, and the choreography is not technical whatsoever. But it's enough for Elvira to catch the prince's eye. Finally. Because when the ball is back in full swing and Elvira is back in her gown, the prince selects Elvira as his first dance partner. Chills. Oh boy, what an honor. The sparks are flying, and I'm sure Elvira's heart is soaring. And her stomach is probably still all out of sorts. But mid-dance, the dance from Elvira's dreams, those sparks get snuffed out real quick when a beautifully dressed, mysterious, veiled stranger makes an entrance into the ballroom, stopping the dancing and music altogether at her presence. And, unfortunately for Elvira, drawing the prince over to her, to the newcomer, where he just ditches Elvira to dance with this arcane enchantress, this mystical beauty. That is not Elvira, unfortunately for her. Now Elvira's heart is in pieces, as well as her stomach. The unrest in her guts prompting her to skedaddle away to find somewhere to puke. And when she vomits, her stomach contents are nothing but black goop and a bunch of tapeworm eggs. Actual eggs. So the tapeworm's just using her as a rent-free mobile home and starting a big family inside. Ew. I hate tapeworms so much. I hate a lot of bugs. I hate a lot of things, apparently. And mosquitoes. And weevils. After a loving, supportive pep talk from her loving, supportive mother, Elvira pulls through her tears and gut issues enough to head back to the dance floor, having to tolerate dancing with a bunch of random, still very rich, dudes, as well as an increasingly tempestuous gut. Elvira also having to endure the jealousy of watching this newcomer continuing to dance with her beloved prince, who has now become besotted with her. How dare she? Until the clock strikes midnight, and Agnes's magical cover of anonymity drops, Elvira recognizing her as Agnes straight away. And in that same moment, as the clock is striking midnight, Agnes hurries away from the ballroom floor, out through the doors, of course leaving a shoe behind. As the story goes, you know. But it's too late. Elvira has seen her, seen Agnes's face, literally seen Agnes for who she is, and now she is pissed. Agnes just stole her dream man. When Elvira heads home, tantrum in full swing, she rushes inside to find Agnes already back in the house, nonchalantly reprising her humble servant status and servant duties, like nothing even happened. Since the prince is now looking for the owner of the lost shoe as his choice of bride, Elvira begins tackling Agnes for the other matching shoe. Of course, as you do, eventually fighting it away from Agnes's grasp by persuasion of a cleaver. Elvira's taking this very seriously. Now Elvira can prove to the prince that it was her. She was the mysterious stranger he was smitten by and spent the night dancing with. Perfect plan. Everything is right back on track. But, unfortunately for Elvira, the shoe doesn't fit. At all. Not even close. But Elvira's come way too far and sacrificed way too much to just have to give up now. She's still got that burning tenacity and heartful determination to end up with her beloved prince. Her prince not so charming. Accordingly, Elvira's desperation pulls her stare down to the discarded cleaver. And she picks it up, stuck in a moment of harrowing contemplation. But that moment of deliberation is very short-lived, before Elvira decides that she'll do anything to fit that shoe. Anything. And by anything, I mean using the cleaver to chop off her toes. Now that's dedication. And as you can imagine, this scene is brutal as hell. As hell! Gross. Ugh. But I watched it anyway. After brutally sending 5 piggies to the market, her mother and sister Alma hurry into the room at all the screaming and shouting and commotion coming from Elvira. And while Alma is shocked and horrified to see what Elvira's doing, the mother's pretty much first reaction is to inform Elvira that she cut the wrong foot, actually, given the prince has the left shoe. Against Alma's understandable rebuking, their psychotic mother makes her way over to the foot of the now unconscious Elvira and sends the rest of those piggies packing, chopping off the rest of her toes with no hesitation whatsoever. This mother will do whatever it takes. Elvira and the prince will be married, and they will make her rich. Poor Elvira, but honestly, she's brought most of this upon herself, due to her over-my-dead-body determination and unfathomable infatuation with the less-than-dreamy prince, who is not worth it at all whatsoever. The bar is an absolute hell if Prince Julian is your dream man. I know he's rich and royal, but that doesn't really mean all too much. At least it shouldn't. Especially with the type of person he seems to be. And once Elvira's feet are all completely toeless and bandaged up, she hears the bugle call of the prince's arrival to her property, and subsequently hurries and battles her way downstairs, regardless the injury, no matter the cost, tumbling down to the bottom of the stairs, only to see Agnes, who's now all dressed up and looking very unpeasantly, head outside to where the prince's royal entourage waits with that other shoe, which obviously belongs to Agnes. And as Elvira lays there as a broken, bloody, battered heap, she hears the distant prince's voice proclaim that the shoe fits. It fits! He's found his princess! He's found his bride! Huzzah! And after all Elvira suffered through. Oh my gosh. 4 months of hell and suffering and abject torture, all now in vain. All now for nothing. Nada. And it's a devastating blow to Elvira's tapeworm-infested heart. Shortly thereafter, Alma discovers her sister in her bloody, miserable, heartbroken state, looking a little more than worse for wear, and since this fight and competition for the prince is officially and finally over, Alma thinks it a good time to get that heinous, evil, disgusting worm out of her sister. So she takes the physically and emotionally devastated Elvira to the bathroom and whips out that tapeworm remedy tincture. And once she gets it into Elvira's system, it works pretty quickly. Ew. In the matter of only a few seconds, Elvira starts puking up a worm, a tapeworm, that keeps going and going like a magician's prop, eventually heaving up a truckload worth of tapeworm. Ew, that was all inside her. Although I think if you took a tapeworm tincture remedy, the tapeworm would come out the other end. I do believe, I don't know for sure. And even through all this horror scene, their mother could not care less about her suffering daughter, too busy with this week's boy toy to give a damn. Despite the mother being the leading cause for Elvira even taking this treacherous path to perfection. I mean, sure, Elvira herself wanted to change her appearance, but it was her mother that put the idea in her head that her appearance needed to be changed at all. And that it needed to be changed a lot. So Alma escorts her broken, crippled sister out to her horse, and they both make a quick getaway. Alma wanting to get her poor, easily influenced sister far away from their evil, callous mother's toxicity and manipulations, so that Elvira can fully heal, and maybe, eventually, hopefully, learn to like and accept the way she really is. And that she don't need to change herself for no man. And then it cuts to black. Thus it ends. And like I said, this movie is very brutal. But it's also Norwegian, and I think that explains a little bit there. It just seems that foreign horror films, they are not afraid to take it to that level. They are not afraid to take it there. Which I respect. So if you too want to be grossed out by this Norwegian horror spin on the original Cinderella story, Grimm Brothers on crack, then go and give it a watch. Go and give it a watch. Ooh. And while you're at it, welcome Dennis into the haunted family. I think he makes a nice addition.